Oh, good morning. Hi, Maya. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Pete. How are you?
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. So I'll do the introductions. Welcome to the thrill seekers and trendsetters to the Hype podcast series, your gateway to the most electrifying and immersive experience across various industries. I'm your host, Pete Bailey, and I'm here to take you on a pulse-pounding journey through the cutting-edge innovation and imagination of AV in retail. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts as we prepare for an unforgettable encounter as we proudly introduced our esteemed guest of the day. Get ready to be inspired and enlightened by the brilliance of Miya Knights. Yeah, a true visionary and trailblazer in the retail industry. I love it. I love the way people put stuff like this.
Oh,
So let's
wow.
give a warm and virtual welcome to Miya Knights as we
Thank
embark on
you.
an exciting journey of discovery and innovation together. Today, we're going to discuss retail renaissance, crafting unforgettable customer experience. In this delectable podcast series, we are going to serve you with a sumptuous feast of insights, strategies, and innovations that should leave you with your taste buds tingling with excitement. Join us now as we explore how visionary brands are turning their stores into immersive wonderlands and where the boundaries between physical and digital worlds sort of blur together at that particular point, and the shopping transformations into an enchanting adventure. We dig into the latest cutting-edge technologies from interactive displays, through to, well, pretty much AI assistance, seamless mobile integrations, all designed to help create an unforgettable, immersive shopping experience. Miya, welcome, and thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me on this. We know that the retail industry is going through I suppose, a tough time. Seeing all the high streets now that, with people like Wilco's and everything else that have unfortunately, sort of met their demise. But on that note, and with regards to, you being the expert in the industry, what do you consider at the moment the most pressing challenges that retailers are now facing today?
Well, first of all,
It's a
thanks
tough
for having
question,
me,
that one.
Pete. Yes, and great, amazing
You're
introduction.
welcome.
Crikey, I need to pay the person that wrote that. Um, and the big question. One word answer would be profitability. Pretty obvious, but
Yeah, yeah,
profitability. um, in terms of the macro issues, where we are seeing inflation run a little bit rampant, cost of living crisis, making the consumer completely cost conscious, brand promiscuous, and people don't mention it, but also, wage inflation is a huge issue for retailers at the moment. You've got people like Lidl wanting to open, full figures of stores. I can't remember if it's 1,000 or 2,000. They only need something like 60,000 people, and they can't find them.
wow,
Travel, leisure, hospitality, they can't find them.
really,
And they're having to increase wages above minimum wage in order to attract staff and retain staff. It's already a very retail specifically, leisure and hospitality particularly as well now, are quite fluid industries. People don't tend to work in retail as a career or see it as a long-term career, which is a long-term problem that I think retailers face. So we're unpacking a lot of challenges in this profitability answer. And then when you look at the operational challenges that they faced into up to the point of Russia invading Ukraine and us having a bit of a crazy quasi budget, we saw that they were struggling to balance the investments in digital with their stores, with the exponential increase in consumer expectations as a result of the convenience and immediacy of digital and the ability to craft their own journey, personalize their own journey, and mix them between stores and online. So I think the best example, and the final point I'll make on that in terms of profitability to really drive that point home, is that when stores shut and grocers became the fourth emergency service, they saw their online business expand exponentially. And they made a lot of noise about the fact that they responded to that and opened up more delivery slots and so on and so forth. But there's been, well covered research that says that if you order your groceries from one of the big four online, they're subsidising that up to about 15%. If they pick it from a dark store, they could be subsidising it from about 10%. If they pick it from in-store and deliver it to you, or click and collect, they subsidise it by 5%. The only way they actually start to make margin is if we go into the store, scan, pack, bag, and pay for our own goods with our mobile phone. And then they want to ask us, it's only at that point that they want to ask us, do you shop here regularly? Are you a loyal customer? And then if you do, they go, oh, we're really sorry, you could have got this cheaper somewhere else, here's a voucher, or here are some points, and now we're into the whole members pricing thing because of the digital information they store on us now. It's a really, really, really complex time to be a retailer, and they're being squeezed at both ends, the macro end and the consumer end, with the advent of digital in terms of making sure that they can be profitable.
Yeah, it does it. I mean, like we've seen, this is with the amounts of retail stores that are actually closing their doors, unfortunately, and having to become compact and concise and consolidate absolutely everything with it. And where I live, I live in a town, but I've got two very affluent towns that sort of sit either side of me, Guildford and Farnham, and even they're having issues with with stores actually being shut with that. How do you see then in the sort of the new world, let's put it that way, that audio visual can be integrated into retail spaces to entice the customers or engage the customers more back into the stores where, like you said, the profitability is better for them at that particular point, rather than being online and people going into the store and then coming back out and purchasing online. How do you think that can help, or do you think it could help?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I think part of the problem, I'm allowed, maybe hopefully, to be a bit tough on retailers because I also try and help them find the solutions. But in terms of being tough, the stick that leads to the carrot is the fact that I think countless numbers of surveys have shown that consumers actually kind of prefer shopping online. To the point that I made about the average grocery experience, if you're digitally enabled, even if you're using one of the guns, you're doing it all for them. I always talk about some very powerful research I conducted when I was head of industry insight at a loyalty firm. And prior to that, I'd been a research analyst, a technology research director. And so I'd done this research many times. And it is, you ask the consumer, in a consumer survey, what are your top reasons for consideration for retailers and brands? What is it that will persuade you to consider a brand or retailer as part of your purchase decisions? And it's always been the 3 Ps: price, proximity, promotions. It's always been that, Proximity is the one that's dropped away as we've seen digital adoption increase, because frankly, stores are a faff to get to. They're not great when you get there. But the profound thing about this piece of research, which was 2018, so it was even sort of predates the pandemic, was it was if you can't beat me on price, which was the number one, always is the number one. You actually have to strip that out before you get anything meaningful from the research, from the results, from the data. Then give me a promotion. If you can't beat your competitors on price, then make me feel like I'm getting a good deal. But the third one was the one that really stood out for me, and that was recognise and reward me for my continued custom. First time it had ever popped up as third, and I thought, it's quite obvious to me, I don't know if it is to you, that if I'm shopping with you online and in the store, you now have the ability to communicate with me either through my mobile device or, in the case of your question, audio-visual equipment, screens in stores, as well as the human beings. And let's not lose sight of that. But every single human being can benefit from digital in store. And whether that's on a screen that you hold or a screen that is displaying something in the store, there's information that can be imparted that can be kept up to date in real time in an immersive and engaging way. Now, retailers have also spent a huge amount of money developing their online presences. So why not take some of that content, some of those learnings, and some of that ability to engage either through my browser, on a laptop or a PC, or through my mobile, or even more still through an app. If I've downloaded your app and I've come into your store, why are you not asking me to identify myself so that I can be rewarded and recognised for my custom? Why are you not using those screens to do that? Some people will never want to be recognised. They are the cash-paying, anonymous customers that are part of the long tail of this journey that we're on in terms of digital adoption amongst consumers. But at the same time, those that opt in, those that want to be recognised, they're not going to be necessarily freaked out by a screen next to a promotional display that says, oh, we see you have this in your basket. Would you like to add this for your basket for 2 for 1? Or the example I always used to use when I used to do store tours was in Burberry, where really simple conceit that you would put RFID tags in the hangers, and when they're taken off the rails, the model on the massive screen in front of you walks down the catwalk wearing what you're holding in your hand. The store assistant comes up to you and is armed with a screen and a mobile screen. She can control what's on the screen. She can give you your own immersive and engaging fashion show. There are so many ways that screens can be used to improve the physical store experience and blend it with the digital experience and expectations that we've come to expect nowadays, to want retailers to deliver for us. The lack of investment in store is part of the problem, but it's squaring that circle in terms of profitability and where do I invest and what do I invest in and how. The final thing I will say, we've talked about sort of immersive and engaging content, but we haven't also talked about how audiovisual equipment can certainly, I think we've seen it being used really, really well in the hospitality, quick service restaurant business, where you use your own screens to order. You actually have a prompt as to whether or not your order is being prepared. We're seeing this now have implications in the travel industry in terms of ordering ahead in airports, in leisure, ordering ahead in cinemas. So all of that audio-visual equipment not only has a functional purpose to serve in terms of assuring me that I'm being served, that I'm an important customer, but also in terms of engaging and interacting with me as well. I think it's that latter part that we haven't seen quite so much of. And then maybe we'll talk about things like, audio, augmented reality and virtual reality. But when we're just talking about screens in stores and when they're in our hands, around the stores or in the hands of your store staff, there's so much more that they could be doing.
I fully agree with you. Yeah, I think that people need to look at how they engage with customers as they walk through the door far more than they probably ever did. Yeah, and like you said, rewarding people for staying loyal. We've seen the big four, actually now start to do it with their point system as well. Instead of it being, I don't know, £3, it's £2.10. And that has, I'm not sure yet whether or not, any data's been released on that with regards to how well it's actually done for one of the big four at that particular point. But you went on with sort of augmented reality as well, and virtual reality. Do you think that if we have the AR and VR, for example, with like mobile phones, as we've seen, people go up to certain things and it will suddenly explode into something completely different, like a massive box of cornflakes or something, in front of you at that particular point. Do you think that is a step too far, or do you think that will help customers come into the store, or do you think it's going to be oh my goodness, what's going on with them?
So taking a
tough
step
one,
back,
that one. Sorry,
taking a step back. I want to just deal with your point about member pricing first. So we've certainly seen a huge uptake in uptick in loyalty. I think if retailers had loyalty, they're doubling down on it, and if they don't, they're looking at how they can master that. Why? Because it's one of the best ways of getting me to identify myself both online and in store. So they can see me as one customer, not two separate customers shopping on two separate channels. I don't think in the member pricing, it's very mass. It's very, there are now reports coming out by which saying that, it basically obfuscates pricing. It doesn't necessarily work out cheaper, and it definitely works out more expensive for anybody else that isn't a loyal member. I would like to see that kind of information used to respond to me in a more engaging and interactive way that recognises and rewards me for my custom. We've seen a few little forays into that through mobile, with sort of Sainsbury's doing its gamification in terms of, I forget what it was called, but it incentivized you to eat 5 a day healthy foods, and you would get specific discounts on specific foods if you came in and you scanned the stickers on the side of the displays, for example. When you're getting people to want to do things like that with AR and VR, so now I answer the second half of your question, it's all very well and good to go, oh yeah, it looks great. Oh yeah, that looks, play a game. I mean, we've seen Pokemon do that 10 years ago. We've seen, I forget the name of the company in America, the vendor in America that used to gamify check-ins. What was the name of that social network where you check in? I forget. Foursquare. Was it Foursquare? No, it wasn't Foursquare.
Well, that's going to bug me now. Yeah,
anyway, someone will tell us in the comments. But these are well-worn use cases. I think joining them together in a dynamic way with who is responding, when, where, how, and why, inferring the why, and then responding in a personalized, individual way to me. So, if I show a propensity to want to play games, then yes, have me gamify at the shelf edge, but give me something for it. I mean, I'm thinking again about the big four. They've got massive recipe libraries that's meant to sort of drive engagement online. Why not surface that to me in store? Why not say, oh, Miya, we noticed that you scanned in spaghetti bolognese sauce and pasta. We can give you 10% off the cheese if you scan this shelf edge and play this game with us, or whatever it might be. There's a myriad of possibilities. I think the thing is, the art of the possible, when you think about, we're talking about AV and screens in stores, enabling this is another step. The other thing I always say, if I do get to talk about this in a structured way, I say that, there are a few things that retailers really need to do when they're embracing mobile that we carry in store, which is what VR and which is what AR enables to a certain extent. VR maybe with this, if you're going to walk around a store with glasses, you're going to probably need a phone to connect it to anyway. But there's inspiration, there's convenience, there's utility in terms of payments, that's well covered. Any utility that can take cost out of the process for the retailer, you've seen them go for it hell for leather. When it comes to inspiring me or engaging me or making things more convenient for me, I don't know why we don't use the geolocation in phones to get people to say, my order is here. I'm here to pick up my order. a pizza place that has too much dough at the end of the day, anyone that's on my loyalty scheme and is within however, meter distance, I'm going to say come in and get 2 for 1 off, 2 for 1 or to 50% off or something. So using innovations like LiDAR, geolocation to be able to just build more utility, more convenience, as well as more inspiration, more engagement, more navigation. All of these things, I think, are really, really important that we explore. And AR is the next frontier in that, I think. But we're kind of hamstrung at the moment with the macro situation, kind of really dampening investment in things like that. Much as less things like the metaverse. Do you know? I refused to talk about the metaverse last year because I could see it was going to be a bit of a, as far as consumers are concerned, it's not right. It's not ready. As far as, fixing oil rigs or maybe, from remotely or teaching people to do complex tasks like surgery or something like that. Absolutely. The metaverse is perfect. But just in case you mentioned it, I thought we'd get that out of there as well. We're definitely kind of AR. I think we just need to need to master screens. We need to master mobile in this order. Yeah. Then we can start to look at AR. Then we can start to look at things like VR and the metaverse.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I think the key is your is as you walk through. Obviously, people are wearing things like smartwatches these days, which are getting better and better and better. There's more technology in a smartwatch than we had when we first went to the moon. And when you're talking about your mobile, as you walk into the store, it should recognize that you're there and say, these are the promotions of the day, or welcome back, Miya, to you were here 2 weeks ago and you looked at X, Y, and Z. Yeah, do you is there something new that we could tempt you with today, I suppose?
You think about you just made me think, with generative AI, why can't I use the chat function in my app to go, where are the beans? Or would I like to speak to a store assistant? Or do you want me to navigate you to the newest things in store? You bought this, would you like this? I mean, it is a bit Minority Report. I remember that Tom Cruise walking into a Gap.
We're getting that.
And going, hey, you bought the slacks, do you want the polo to go with it? But some people, because let's face it, we can feel overwhelmed when we walk into stores, want that kind of guidance. They want that kind of guidance and then some people want that kind of guidance from a human being. So we can't overestimate enough, in fact, how important human beings are still going to be in stores. But at the same time, we both, on the retailer side and the customer side, we both can be using digital systems that have to encompass screens of some sort to guide us and to help us and in fulfilling our missions. One, for them to serve us, and for us to get what we need. We might want to do so slowly. We might want to do so in an informed, self-service way. But retailers have to try and cover every base nowadays. And I think they are missing so much opportunity there.
Fully agree with you. Obviously, you know that I don't think normally, with regards to when it comes to looking at the sort of the bigger picture on. But I mean, I currently don't understand how, what strategies retailers are using to measure the effectiveness of things like, screens that are within store, or improving customer satisfactions, and loyalties and stuff like that. I still don't see at the moment how they're doing that. Is there any insights that you have on that?
Well, I think we are certainly seeing them. As I said, loyalty is a bit of a base and a bedrock at the moment. From a technology standpoint, digital standpoint, it's important because of the rising importance of first-party data. Whether we're talking about privacy, data security, GDPR in that respect, or knowing me as one person, or being able to use that information to attract brands, attract brand-funded ad campaign money. We're seeing this now kind of explode online with retail media networks, with online advertising. It's one of the main sort of engines of revenue for Amazon's retail arm, for example. These are ways of not just, I suppose, monetizing the data, but also providing those feedback loops and measurement mechanisms that prove that your ad is being seen by a certain number of people, and that proves that your ad is being clicked on by a certain number of people and maybe leads to a certain amount of conversion. I think that's just an extension of what we've seen in terms of what we as consumers have seen over the last 15 to 20 years in terms of the explosion in ads online, the explosion in ads through social networks, through social media, for example. That's all part of that engine. And even though it's a monetizable engine, it's also one that, because it's monetizable, it's measurable. So I think that's why we've seen a lot of increase in interest in that area. In store, it's not so easy. I think we're still seeing really interesting things from Walmart, for example, with its retail media network, sort of retail media own agency called Walmart Connect. And I recently was asked to do an op-ed for the Grocer magazine, and they often just say, well, have you seen anything interesting, Mara? And I thought, well, actually, what they're doing with radio playout ads and brands in terms of matching brand ads to a particular demographic that shops in a store at a particular time, for example, it's still a bit spray and pray. It's still a bit above the line because it's radio ads and it's mass. But you can start to think about as the store gets increasingly digitized in ways that consumers actually want, and they don't necessarily want, Piccadilly Circus on digital shelf edges. I've seen that and it's a bit scary. But they might want to be able to interact with a shelf edge if prompted by a radio ad in store, and bringing up an augmented reality ad that looks better than a point of purchase cardboard tag, for example. That shelf edge display could have the ability to have that two-way communication that could give me a much more immersive experience of that ad, and prove that ad not only was played out to the right audience, but engaged the right audience. And then if it says, oh, I like that, I'll pick that up, scan that, put that in my basket, convert. It's irrefutable proof. It's that mechanism that we've seen develop and evolve online into the store. But you need the touch points, you need the app, you need the intelligence, you need the first party data, you need all of these components to make a customer journey like that work. I should say, we're talking a lot about the art of the possible, but I often say to retailers, if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by what's possible by sector, I think by sector, we've talked about hospitality, we've talked about leisure, in terms of speeding the customer journey, providing information. There are ways of engaging if you're making them wait. There are ways of increasing dwell time if that's what you want to do. There are ways of, I think what we're talking about here is, really starting to measure the impacts of that. But you have to start with the customer journey and reverse engineer it. What does the customer want from me when they walk into a store? What does the customer that shops with me on multiple channels looks, they like me on Instagram, they've got the app, they shop with me online, they shop with me in store. What do they want when they walk into my store? So you've got all of that data about me, the how, what, when, why, who. It's the why that you need to infer from all the other questions that you're asking of the data, and then reverse engineer that to be able to work out what touch points I need and how I can make that measurable. But the minute there are touch points, they instantly become measurable. So I think, asking me to check in online, check in on my mobile when I walk into a store, use the Wi-Fi when I walk into a store, but also engage at the shelf edge, engage at the display, engage with the store assistant, all these different ways we should be exploring as well in terms of measuring, tracking, and making it monetizable.
There are things like lift and learn, touch. You've got your NFC and your mobile as well. And having been into stores here, in the UK, we don't seem to be thinking. Well, they may be thinking, but like you said, the investments, they're not investing as much into it. But those sorts of things, are a lot of it in the Far East. They start to use that. So places like Korea and and that sort of area where they seem to be more tech aware, that you can walk into a store and it will automatically say welcome to to whoever at that particular point in Gangnam Style. And then they can pretty much tailor your needs, because they've seen the spending patterns that you actually have had with it, either within the store or through the credit card companies, if however. And I get every so often a text through from a credit card saying, oh, we've got we've got a promotion on at that particular point, with X retailer. And, I will always click on it, and then, would use that particular credit card in that particular store, because it will give me 10% discount of that, But we don't seem to in the UK, and I can't say for Europe, because I genuinely don't know, that, that just doesn't seem to be the case. And then they're not measuring it, in my opinion, and this is just purely my opinion, as effectively as they could.
Oh gosh, you're absolutely
or utilizing
right.
it.
I mean, we're talking about proportionally the same challenge there as we are in terms of just getting those touch points into the store, getting the store investment made. I think from a market level, taking a market level view of this, as you say, I was having this discussion with some brand retailers the other day, all the Unilevers and the P&Gs of this world, and I made the point that the West, Asia and any parts of what we still unfortunately call emerging markets, were mobile first.
Yes.
The West has a lot of legacy. We're only just talking about switching off copper in the UK.
Yes.
And I remember the pain that retailers went through to broadband enable their stores with BT and BT OpenReach. There is that legacy that holds retailers back, I think. I think, there's a really good, really interesting, the places where we need to look for inspiration and innovation, as you were asking me that question, I was thinking, are anything that's going to be purpose-built that's new. So, actually look at the JLLs, look at the Hammersons, look at the Westfields, what they're doing in terms of, making buildings that are fit for purpose, thinking about, Wi-Fi transmissibility through the kinds of building materials that they're using, whether or not they're enabling sort of micro fulfillment in the back of the store units that they offer now, whether or not they have sophisticated dock bay loading doors. All of that can be digitally enabled as well to increase accuracy from an out of stocks point of view. I know that's a little bit away from AV, but it's another massive challenge that retailers have. And I think when I think of Asia and I think of apex examples of how measurability, tracking, the use of digital in store is really leading the way, it's got to be luxury. It's got to be luxury. So what we're seeing with, the Gucci's and the Chanel's and the Vuittons of this world, I read a really interesting article that said that they're making these VVVIP areas in store now, in these stores, because the VVVIPs don't like mixing with us, because now we can come in and look for stuff as well. So I've seen Burberry really push the boundaries in a store in China where it's all AR, it's all immersive. There's loads of gamification, but you can imagine that fits quite neatly with being able to then hive off more of the store to private rooms, to private areas, and the staff that are needed to man those areas. You're kind of managing the labor requirement because you're giving more to the people that spend more, but you're using digital from a self-service standpoint to engage and interact with everybody else. I think, again, they've thought very, very hard about who their core demographic customers are, who they need to serve and how they need to serve them. They can serve the base of the pyramid, the longer part of the tail, with more digital, transferring that to different sectors, different use cases, different types of customer journeys is definitely possible. But I think in the West, the final distinction I'd make is that reward. It's give and take. If we have a relationship with our personal data and our free will, that is very different from a cultural perspective to those that I've observed in Asia particularly. And I'm talking here, let's say, Germany. Do self-service. Why are they taking a picture of me as I do self-service? They self-checkout. It's been a really hard slog in Germany because of the whole shopping via mobile. What do you know about me? I think that would be the apex example for me of the way we're talking about this difference in cultural perception of data and how it relates to privacy and free will. And so we need to be incentivized. I always talk about a give to get dynamic when it comes to employing digital and recognizing and rewarding people. If you're going to recognize me, I want to be rewarded for it too. I think that's the difference. So it might be,
absolutely,
just got to recognize the customer journey. It might be, I want a little reward that makes me smile, that makes me feel happy, that, give me something on my birthday, which we're all very good at doing. But it might be, it might run to, something exclusive, something only 10% of your customers are going to get, or it could just be a monetary reward. But there are so many different types of reward that the whole sort of point to making prizes dynamic nowadays is well worn, and I think consumers can see through that. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about member pricing, so that you have to be more innovative in ways of incentivizing customers to identify themselves and engage with you in a digitally immersive way in stores, so that you can measure it better.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a retail's a QSR store that actually, they will give you a donut for your birthday, and some things along those, or your once a week, because you're loyal to them, you have once a week coffee with them, or something along those lines. And do you know what? It actually, for me, it works. Yeah, because I constantly go to this particular place now, and all the other ones are sort of merged into the background of the coffee houses or whatever at that particular point. And you're absolutely spot on. We need to make it much more personalised, and so for the person actually walking through, through the store door at that point. Finally, what advice would you give retailers seeking to leverage the AV side to overcome challenges that they had of this ever-evolving landscape that they're now sitting in? And we know it is ever-evolving at the moment.
Yeah. So, brass tacks, let's get down to some hard talk, which means money. We've talked a lot about investment. We've talked a lot about squeeze and profitability. And I think retailers, let's just also cover one base that we haven't covered in terms of post-pandemic. I'm very surprised that retailers thought we've got 20% online growth year on year through the years of the pandemic, so we can sustain 20% online growth beyond that. I describe it as squeezing a balloon. Yes, the balloon gets slightly larger every year because there are more of us, and so we consume more. But what happened in the pandemic was the balloon got squeezed and the demand got pushed elsewhere. Yep. And now it's slowly coming back, and we are seeing people come back into stores. So I do think what I'm seeing retailers doing is just the basics at the moment, which is right sizing supply to demand. And in that respect, it means their assets. And what are their most valuable assets? Well, first of all, they spend more on people than they do on anything else. And secondly, they spend more on, and the second most important thing is their real estate, their stores. So right sizing those things are going to be absolutely key. They're doing the analysis now to work out what stores they can keep and what stores they can open, what stores they can expand, what stores they can double down on. You're seeing IKEA. I was on Oxford Street the other day. IKEA has bought the Topshop space. It's got a massive IKEA blue bag on it. So, you know, and I know the VP of engineering for the future stores at IKEA, and I know that she's really trying to work hard to translate that never-ending customer journey into an urban environment. B&Q's doing it with its little sort of click and collect type urban stores. So the role of the store is changing. The types of stores that retailers need are changing. The other thing you need to understand in that is that there is a halo effect with online. If they close a store, online bumps. If they open a store, online also bumps. So they really have to kind of start to understand the dynamics of that, particularly when you've got identikit high streets like we have in the UK, where you could maybe afford to, you know, lose one or two in a 30, 40, 50 mile radius. The other asset is people. Yeah. And that's a really crunchy discussion, because that's when people start to talk about, is AI coming for my jobs? Is digital coming for my jobs? Is self-checkout taking away the personalized experience? You know, if everyone has a screen in their hands, what's going to happen to the human touch in store? It makes it more important, frankly. It makes it more important, which comes back to that seasonality, that seasonal image, low paid image of retail. Retailers need to invest in their people as much as they need to invest in their stores. These people are their best brand advocates. They're their most expensive asset. They need to use them so much better than they do already. Stacking shelves and replenishing merchandise displays is not really the best use of their time in that respect. You need them to engage, immerse, convert, etc., etc. You also need them to be able to help with the digital touch points in store for those customers that want to be rewarded and recognized and self-serve and just pop in and pop out. Don't talk to me, I just need to collect something, I've ordered it online. That's the other end of the wedge, as it were. So in terms of tackling AV, I think AV has to be part of the solution of taking cost out of these areas. And that is, we talk about, you know, automation generally. You know, we've seen a lot of that in grocery. We've talked a lot about that in grocery, but we're seeing more and more of that as consumers are more and more willing to self-serve in so many other sectors, you know, in terms of ordering ahead in hospitality and leisure and travel. But why can't I do that to get a personalised appointment in a mid-tier store? Thinking about that Asia luxury example, my goodness, all of these mid-tier fashion retailers could easily offer a better white glove service to their most loyal customers in store. And AV has to be an enabler of that when they come into the store. It's part of the solution and it's part of right-sizing that investment. Final crunchy thing I'll say is that in terms of investment, IT has been sorely misrepresented in retailers for too long. It's seen as a cost center, not as a profit enabler. Most retailers spend about 1 to 2% of sales on technology. Realistically, they need to be spending more like 4 to 6% of turnover on technology. And I'm not saying it's a bit like squeezing the balloon. I'm not saying they need to go and find that money from elsewhere. They need to take cost out of other areas. They need to take cost out of how much merchandise they're wasting by, you know, buying too much and not selling, you know, too many markdowns and, you know, not having the right staff mix in store to be able to serve customers so they convert. Queues, that's the biggest problem in store. People see a queue and they walk out. Why can't you solve that problem? Right? So it's taking cost out of other areas, investing more in IT, but thinking about it always, always, always. And I shall leave you with this: is that's people, process, and technology in that order. I need to think about the people I serve, the people that that work for me to serve, the processes that I make those people jump through, the hoops that I make my customers jump through to buy from me, and what technology can enable that. And that's where AV has a really powerful place role to play.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that. I think that the AV side of it could be utilized so much better, and to, like you said, to personalize it to the individual. That's just key. That is so key.
Absolutely.
Again, this is just my opinion. And on that, and on that note, Miya, thank you so very much for joining me today. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a real eye opener. Actually, you probably saw my eyes rolling, because I was thinking about other ways of being able to, I suppose, help retailers, attract more. Well, not just attract more, but retain more of their, their loyal customers, or should be loyal customers. And how to make it much more interactive in the store as well, for people.
Don't
and you
forget
can probably see I'm still doing it
now.
now.
Don't forget the Pareto rule. 40% of your customers are probably responsible for 60% of your sales. They are the most important, and it's been proven time and time again that those customers that shop across more than one channel are also your most valuable customers. So that is the nexus point that you need to focus on. Knowing who those customers are, using the data they share with you to go out and find more like them, and running your business better as a result of that information. AV is the sexy bit. AV is the fun part. You just need to be able to be really laser focused in what that investment is for. What is it going to give me as the customer, that's going to help you sell more stuff to me?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you.
No, thank you, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.